Well, you're right, a long way to go. And I was delighted that the state legislature gave the Comptroller the proper role that that office should have in being a check and balance on the mayor in schools as in all other agencies. There are a few specific things you want to do. Number one, the Comptroller has to be an independent and authoritative source of just good data on the school system. When we had a hearing a few weeks back on the graduation rate, it was clear that the claims being made by the Department of Education were overstated. Graduation rates have gone up some, but not as much as they're claimed, and it's important for the public to know what the real numbers are. It's important for the Comptroller's office to look behind some of the numbers that are put out by the Department of Education. They talk about, overcrowding in different neighborhoods, but there are neighborhoods where the schools are not overcrowded because nobody wants to go to the schools in that neighborhood, so people are traveling a mile and a half to go to school. That means that neighborhood needs attention too. It's not just where the schools are most crowded. The Comptroller has got to rein in the unbelievable cost overruns in the school construction authority that mean that even though we've pumped in massive amounts of money into the capital budget, we're not creating the schools, not the seats we need, much less the gyms, the libraries, the science labs that we need. Those are three of my priorities as Comptroller.
Councilmember Katz and Weprin and Lou.
I started this campaign talking about the Department of Education and how I wanted to audit the Department of Education when I was Comptroller because it was Tuesday. And then I wanted to do it again because it was Thursday. And besides all of the, I believe, waste that you will find at the Tweed building with the administration, because everyone knows that the DOE is top-heavy, besides the waste that we're finding, that we're giving the amount of money we're giving for each school in this city and how much money is actually going to the classrooms, besides all that, you have the other issues. We have after-school programs all over this city that are being run by great not-for-profit organizations in our school system. How much money is going to those not-for-profits and how much more can we be giving them in order to get our kids off the street? How much money is actually going to them as opposed to the administrative services that are needed in order to have them in our schools? How much money are not-for-profits paying to custodians in order to be in that school? Because we all know that it's the principal's discretion as to whether or not a not-for-profit has to pay the custodian and whether or not they can actually use the school. So there are so many different issues involved with making sure that services, not only the education, but services go where services are needed, and that is to our children. And I believe the Comptroller's office can be a key player in making sure that that continues at a much greater rate in our city.
Councilmember Weprin?
Yes, the first place to start is with the outside contracting budget for the Department of Education. The outside contracting budget for the Department of Education has ballooned to being over $2 billion. Over $2 billion, most of which are no-bid contracts. It's really, if we actually examined, and as Comptroller with the new legislation, I intend to spend a lot of time examining that outside contract budget. That money we can be saved with these contracts can go right back into the classroom, can restore the cuts to the Department of Education, and really get back to where it's needed for the kids in the system. I have a nephew that just finished 4th grade. He spent 2 months training for the 4th grade test, where they're actually told, these kids are told that if you don't know the answer to the question, answer C in the multiple choice, because statistically there are more C's. I mean, that's great if you're studying for the bar exam or the medical exam. I did that when I went to law school, but should 4th graders, 9-year-olds really be taught that? What's wrong with basic learning and learning the material rather than learning to do well in the exam? And I really believe that these statistics are misleading, and it really has to do with this outside contracting budget, with the Stanley Kaplan type of no-bid contract that are going out and are artificially inflating the numbers so the chancellor and the mayor look good. At the same time, are our students really learning?
Councilmember Lou.
Thank you. I would have to agree with a lot of that. The no-bid contracts are a big problem. They smack of waste, they smack of favoritism, and under the new school governance law, the Comptroller will finally be able to have a strong say in how the school contracts are given out. I think over the years, the Department of Education has played so many numbers games with the public, and it's distracted them from the real goal of actually making sure that the kids are learning better. Councilmember Weprin talked about the test scores. It is absolutely correct that they are exaggerating the test progress. The state scores have gone up Federal scores have, in many cases, gone down, even though both sets of exams are meant to gauge educational progress. That, to me, is clear evidence that there is coaching for the test that's happening. Other numbers games that they played. The Department of Education, for a couple of years, they were claiming that they were creating all these new school seats. When I asked them during hearings, they finally fessed up to the fact that they were actually talking about number of seats in new schools. But new schools that were going to be housed in already existing school buildings where all the chairs were already in place. That was a numbers game that was misleading the public, and it was distracting their goal of actually creating the real space that we need to educate our school kids for the future.